Hi everyone, it's time for another issue of Build the Millennium Falcon. We're up to issue number 41 now. We've got a little bit more hull plating, we've got some of the undercarriage covers for when the landing gear is up, and we're also starting to build the, I think it's the dorsal gun turret. Dorsal being the top, ventral being the bottom. So yeah, so here we are, so we're assembling this. That looks pretty naff to me, I have to say, so what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to assemble it, clean it up, and I think that's going to want painting. I don't really think, because the decals are pretty good, the side walls look pretty good, they're looking better with some fibre optics, bringing in some lighting maybe even a few little flashies, a few little blinkies, so that would be quite cool. So I'm probably going to paint and light block this accordingly. There is going to be some illumination. There's an LED that gets fitted and it just sticks through to the wire there, and that's just going to illuminate the whole thing, but I think a few extra additional lights would be kind of cool. But I think that seat and the joystick and everything, it needs painting, doesn't it? It's a little bit bland as it is, so I think a little bit of additional painting is required here. And we also get a bit more of the hull, which I'm going to do my usual prime and light block, just as I've done here with the X-Wing that I'm building up for a client. So, so there we go. So okay, we're starting with the deck and the chair in the dorsal quad cannon bay, whatever you'd call it. It's fairly simple assembly, little fiddly, so some tweezers may be required and some cyanoacrylate. Super glue, in other words. So this bit looks fairly simple. I'm going to carry on and build it up to this stage, I think, and then maybe prime it and paint it. I think it's going to want to be painted, this. It needs a little bit more colour, I believe. There we go. So yeah, so just made a start really. Just got the little seat together, there's just a little support behind it, and then the controls and a sort of joystick area. So fairly simple so far. I'll come back to you shortly. Okay, so not so easy. The seat rest, the support rail, which is a separate piece that goes around the back, it's this one, the rear support. Where are we? There we are. That is really flimsy, or really weak, and the problem is you can cut it off there okay, but if you try to cut any of the flash off it, you can break it, as I did. So I've had to rejoin it basically. It broke just, hang on, it broke just there, and I've had to rejoin it. So I'm going to assemble it and then very carefully try and file the little bits of sprue off afterwards, because it's just very difficult to do. Come on, camera, focus. It's very difficult to do, because that needs removing there, but it's quite difficult to do without breaking that little very thin piece. So not so easy. Take your time, and hopefully you'll be fine. Right end, definitely pin vise and tweezer time now for getting the controls, the little joystick, etc. in there. Now there's a great bit, I don't know if I can really show you against something dark. There we go. So there's a bit of spur right on the back of that rail, and it doesn't look right. You can't get too close with cutters, and if you use a knife it'll just break because it's very thin. So what I've been doing, I'll see if I can show you, is I've been getting some sandpaper and just literally just barely touching it. But I don't know if you can see that, but it is going. So about the best way I found of doing that. It just needs cleaning up, but you've got to be so careful when you do it. Okay, I've managed to make that as clean as I can, and then what I'm doing, so I'm going to paint it later on, is I'm just using a fairly wide paintbrush, nice clean one, just to get all the dust and debris out before I paint it. Could just leave it. Okay, that's my little gun turret seat and controls. I've just popped a bit of primer on there, and I'm going to paint them up shortly. Still wet at the moment. This little pin vise is becoming an absolute godsend again. It's such a useful little bit of kit. So yeah, if you haven't got something similar, for this kind of work, for the fiddly stuff, it's really worth getting something like that, because you can hold it at any angle. Okay, that's the latest on the little gun turret cockpit chair and controls. I've primed it, and then I've sprayed it all silver, and the reason for that is I'm going to leave some little silver highlights, you know, maybe on the handles. There's little pedals in there, maybe the seat support rest at the back, and I figured if it was all silver, it's much easier to then just paint the floor grey with a brush and maybe paint the cushions black with a brush, and then that way I don't have to do the fiddly little silver detail. I can just leave the bits I left, or the bits I leave rather, will be the silver details. So I just figured it was an easier way to do it, so we'll see when I actually come to do it, but that's the latest so far. I'll catch up with you later. Okay, quick update on the Falcon. This is the inside of the gun turret, the quad cannon turret on the dorsal side, so on the top. And what I've done is I did paint them in the end. I've just primed them, and I've actually painted them a slightly different colour on the inside, slightly darker than the primer, but a little lighter than the wool colour surround. So I think that's a little bit dark. I think a little bit lighter would be better. Now, because I've been spraying out in my shed and it's been so cold today, I did have a bit of an issue with the paint not drying very well. So I've ended up with a little bit of a mottled effect. It's not bad. Camera probably makes it look worse than it is, but I thought to myself, oh, I'll have to do that later. I'll have to repaint it later. But it occurred to me that this is the Millennium Falcon. It's a bit tatty inside and out. So I thought, I'm just going to put the decals on there and let it be, because the walls aren't pristine clean. They're going to have a bit of a texture. They're going to be a little bit grubby. That's the whole point of the Falcon, being the fastest hunk of junk, etc, etc. So I was thinking, by the time I've got the little seat in there, I haven't finished painting it yet, but I'm just sort of doing it, but I think when the decals are on the side, I think that's going to be alright. So I've come to the conclusion I'm not going to repaint that. I'm going to leave the walls a little mottled looking. It was an accident, but I think I can live with it, and I think actually it adds to the weathering, i.e. the walls are a bit grubby. So there we go. So that's the update on the Falcon. The only other thing I've done on this issue 41, I beg your pardon, is there's only one piece of hull plating, so I've just light blocked it as I normally do. So coat of primer on the inside and coat of highly reflective silver on the inside, and that's pretty much it. I've still got to do the little landing plates here. I love the way that we can put these in and out, because they're going to have little magnets, so you can change it over between the Falcon on the landing gear or the Falcon in flight. Brilliant idea, using the magic magnets. It means you can keep changing it as much as you like without having to break glued pieces apart. Brilliant idea. Okay, at this point I've done quite a bit of the gun turret, or the inside of the gun turret. Let me put that against a better background so you can see. But before I put it all together, that's the light, that's going to be the lighting from above. But before I put it all together, I'm thinking I might add some additional lighting. In the film there's lots of blinkies in here, lots of LEDs, or lots of lights rather, and switches and things. So I'm thinking that, well, it might be nice to enhance it later on. So what I'm going to do, before I glue it together, I bought some new drill bits, and one of them is a 1/2 mil, which just happens to be the same size as that. If you can see that, that's fibre optic cable, is exactly 1/2 mil. So what I'm thinking of doing is we'll drill some holes in here, 1/2 mil, where you got sort of the little lights there and there. If I drill those out very carefully from the inside, that's why I want to do it now. If I do it from the outside, it'll push this decal in and raise it off the surface. So I'm going to put some little tiny neat holes from the inside going out to allow me to either illuminate it from the outside with sort of generic ambient lighting, or do some little flashy LEDs with using some fibre optic to bring the light right up to the surface. So it leaves my options open basically. I don't want to seal it up until I've done that, but I don't want to leave it like this. I want to sort of make some progress, so that way I've got the best of two options, and the best of both worlds. I can either leave it as is, use some ambient lighting, or third choice is to use some fibre optics. The point is I can do any of those things from that point, so back shortly. Okay, so that's now glued together, holding the LED in place for the ceiling light, but I've drilled some little holes through, as I said I was going to, and what that means is later on I can either leave it as it is, nobody's going to really notice, or I can later on use those holes and put some additional lighting like that. So there'll be an inside light. I can bring some fibre optics through. I'm just using the torch on my phone just to demonstrate, but that's the option it gives me now. You see, I can bring some additional lighting in if I need to, or if I want to. I don't know. There may be some more lighting on the kit to come, but this just gives me an option to bring some more lighting in later on, should I want to. And then there should be a couple more there, I think. Yeah, there you go. Gives you an idea. So, right, so that's now glued in place. That's the LED which is going to supply the ceiling light. That's going to be the ceiling lighting in there. So I've just got to put the chair in, and then I'm going to move on to the next step. Okay, and that's the turret controls complete. Got a little bit of touching up to do still on the actual seat assembly, but at least it's there. And as I said, I've got the ability now to add some lighting through those little holes in the sides later on if I want to, because now my fibre optics, I don't know if I can show you this. Oh, it's cold out here. Hands aren't doing what I want them to do. No. Hang on. Let's try something. It's windy as well. You can hear my door slamming every few seconds. Right, there we go. So that shows you how the LED, or rather the fibre optics, will come through there. And if I use my phone again, put a little light at the other end. Where is the other end? Yeah, it's down there. You see how the light comes through the fibre optic there. So it looks like a little light bulb. Gives you an idea anyway. Okay, I think that's it for this issue. Yes, it is. So that's the end of issue 41, folks. So that's it for now. I shall go and get the next one and start on that soon. Okay, it's issue number 42 of the Build the Millennium Falcon. Windy, cold day. I'm going to have to put something on that door to keep it shut because I'm freezing. Right. So, same as usual, I'm going to unpack it all, see what we're facing. Oh, we've got some bits and pieces to do, so we've got some external work to do by the look of it. I do enjoy the external work. Now on this one, I haven't actually had any problems with the threads, but they give you a tap. So if any of the framework screws don't fit, you can just re-tap the thread. So anyone who's had a bit of an engineering background with taps and dies, they'll know what to do with this. It's pretty easy. As I say, I haven't had to use it yet, but if I do, obviously I shall show you how it's used. But I'll give you this little tip now. Imagine that's the die, and you've got it fitted in this black. Sorry, not the die, the tap. And you've got it fitted into this holder, and you've got it in, and you're trying to cut a thread. Basically, give it a couple of rotations, and then back half a rotation, and then forward again, and then back half a rotation. And what that does is it allows you to clear the thread as you go down, and then you won't get to a point where it just gets really, really stuck, and then it feels like it's going to break if you won't go any further. So, and it doesn't hurt to put a little bit of WD-40 or oil or something on the thread either, just to help it cut through the metal. But that's basically it. So it's sort of turn, back, turn, back, turn, back, and then you should find that's really, really easy to use. Hopefully, most people won't need to. I've not had any bad threads yet, but anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to start unpacking and making a start. Back shortly. Okay, the first thing we're doing is we're going to add quite a lot of detail to this part, which is one of the one of the underside sort of recesses where there's some equipment. I've already put the first piece in, which is there. Remember, it goes from the outside to the inside, not the other way around. I was sitting there for a second thinking, why doesn't this fit? And it does. It's because I was doing it the wrong way around. Now, part number 2 is really thin, and this is quite brittle. So if you haven't got very clean cutters or a knife, and you can't get the sprue off much better. See, I've got a bit of sprue there. But if I put the knife on there and try to cut it off, it will just rip the thing in half. So there's a little way that I deal with stuff like that. And all I do, it consists basically of having quite a bit of patience. Bear with me a second, I'm just trying to reach something without falling over here. Which is not generally a good idea. Right, what I shall do, if you bear with me, I'm going to place the camera down there. Okay, I haven't got my tripod here today, so I'm just going to rip off a little bit of sandpaper, like so, and fold it into 2 like that. And I'm going to make a little tool out of it, and the idea is I'm just going to hold that really gently. And now this is where the patience comes in. Don't try and take that knobbly bit on the corner, don't take it off all at once, just literally ever so tightly, ever so gently drag it backwards and forwards. You're barely touching it, and that will get rid of the sprue there, or get rid of the part of the tree that shouldn't be there, without having to risk cutting it and breaking it. Sorry, it's not a very clear way to show you, but you get the idea. So it's just a very simple, very relaxed manoeuvre. There's a bigger one that side. You can see the second bit in. There's a big knobble there. It doesn't want to be there. So I'm using the same technique. You can either move the paper, or you can hold the paper still and move the part. It doesn't really matter. I don't know if I can show you this. Where are you? Almost like striking a match. So I'm just going to drag it backwards and forwards. But the key is very gently. Take your time. And there you go, see, it's almost gone just in that little time. Let's give you some contrast. Okay, there's a great big knobbly bit underneath. There's a little bit left, so I'm going to try and do a bit better than that. Sorry, you can hear me but not see me. But there you go, it's much better. So just gentle and calm, and it'll come to it'll work. But if you try and cut that with a knife, you're just going to snap the thing in half. Okay, I'm going to fit a few more pieces and I'll come back to you. One little tip, I know you've probably seen this before in earlier videos, but that piece we've just added, this little pipe with the sort of the bend in it, it's just 2 little dots, basically 2 little holes there. You just need to put a little bit of super glue in there and just lower it down. But you can't get the end of something like the end of these glue tubes right down into these corners, so I just use the old, put the glue on the end of a cocktail stick, and then just use a cocktail stick to get the glue right into the little tiny bits, so you don't end up with glue everywhere. Just another little tip. You've probably heard it before, but if not, then I hope it's helpful. Okay, that's the completion of the underside recess with all the gear in it, bits and pieces, pipes, plumbing, etc., whatever it actually is. Now they say give it a spray with a dark grey paint. I disagree. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it like I did with the first one. I have somewhere a Tamiya, or Tamiya, however you pronounce it, weathering kit. And what I did, I don't know if you remember in one of my very early videos, this was I think on issue 19 when we did the other one of these, I just used these colours. So we've got aluminium, we've got sort of dark dirt or oil, and we've got rust. And I just used this brush to paint all of the inside of that and make it look dusty and rusty and used, because that's how it looks on the real thing. It's not painted a nice, a nice clean grey like that. It's quite grubby and it's rusty and it's mucky. So I'll show you how that's going to look shortly. Basically, I'm just going to use the 3 colours here, just sort of grime it up a bit, and I think that will give you a much better. That looks a little toy-like. That looks a little unrealistic. There should be lots of different tones and colours and all sorts in there. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, right then. So what I've done is, instead of painting that, as I've said, I've used the weathering kit to make that look a little bit sort of grubby and rusty, and there's little bits of silver in there to make it look metallic, and there's rust, and there's just all sorts to make it look. That's a little bit darker and grubbier. It's not finished. It's just a rough idea. It's just a rough sort of idea at the moment. I'll put a wash in there later on as well, I think. But you get the idea. I think it looks more realistic for the Falcon than that. Anyway, just a thought. Obviously, do yours how you like. But I just decided to go for the more sort of old, rusty, used look, as after all that's what the Falcon is supposed to be. Okay, got a sneaky feeling that's the end. It is just a short issue 42, just that little recess that we've done. So there we go, that's it for now. 43, and now I'm looking forward to this. This 43, I've already nicked some of these parts. These are the landing bay doors, if you like, for when the landing gear is up, and these are little magnets that we're going to use, so they can just be put in and out as you will, so you can display the model in flight or on the deck. So I think that's going to look quite cool. Right, that's it for now. I'll be back soon with issue 43. Okay, in this issue, which is issue 43, we're doing the landing gear housing and the retractable doors. So what they've done very cleverly here is we've got a series of holes on the inside, and then we've got a little circular recess on the door, and the idea is basically we're going to use magnets. So there'll be a little disc magnet there, and there'll be a little pin there, so you can just put the doors on and the magnets will hold them in place. And then if you want to display it in the landed position, so it's standing on its feet, then obviously you would just take those off and pop the landing gear in instead, which I assume are also going to be held in by magnets. So yeah, very clever of them. And now it's going to be a little fiddly, so I suggest working on a tabletop or something where if you drop something it's going to be caught, and I've got a sneaky feeling tweezers are going to be required for this one. So anyway, here we go. I'll come back to you shortly. Okay, that's all three done. Now, I had a little worry there because in one pack there was just 2 magnets and 4 studs, where obviously you need 6. But in the way that the doors came on separate issues, there was 2 on one issue and 1 on another. So don't worry, they are there, but the pins and the magnets are split over 2 issues. So the idea now is that can be displayed in flight and the door won't fall off. But if we wanted to fit the landing gear instead, we can just take that out. Landing gear will go on there, and I assume they'll be magnetized as well. So again, so that's it. It's as simple as that. Very clever idea. So just if you want to put these doors on, you just fit them with the magnets and they ain't gonna go anywhere. So same here. They're very well camouflaged, very well disguised. They fit into the mouldings very nicely. So same again, just pop it on there and the magnets will hold it in place. Just make sure you don't stick them on too soon while there's still a bit of super glue around. And by the way, you will get super glue on your fingers doing this. There's no other way. I put as little on as I could, and then the magnet, as this little steel disc goes in, the glue gets pushed out, so you're gonna get some on your fingers. So yes, that's but it's not bad. It comes off soon enough. Just don't stick your fingers together. Okay, that's that bit done. Let's see what else we've got on this issue. One thing I did is, because you notice I've light blocked all the inside, painting it silver, and I painted the edge had gone silver like this, so I've just used a bit of sandpaper to take it off of where it didn't want to show, which is on this outer edge. So still got a bit more to do, but that'll come off pretty quick. Okay, I'm going to see what else there is to do on issue number, I forgot where we are now, 43 is it? Yeah, 43. Okay, that was it for issue 43, so I'm going to take those back in and get the next one. Next issue we're starting to do some of the housing for the rear landing gear and the underside of the engine, and and looks like we've got the other turret to do as well. Okay, back shortly. Okay, welcome back. It's we're now moving on to issue number 44, which is the last in the set of 4 that I had delivered the other day. It's another gun turret plus some additional detail. Now this is the landing gear housing on the bottom of the engine section at the rear, what would that be, the rear port side. So we'll get on with doing that, and then the other gun turret obviously is exactly the same as the previous one. It's exactly the same, so probably no point in boring you with showing you that again. In fact, even this issue does pretty much what I just said, and they're showing you the new stuff with the rear landing gear housing, and when it comes to the quad cannon controls, they just say repeat steps in the last issue or a couple of issues ago, so I won't bore you with that again, but I will have to make up that second gun turret. But I'm going to do this bit first because it's more interesting, and I've already done with one gun turret, so I'm not dying to do another one, so I'll do this bit first. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to make a start. I'll show you how I'm getting on and point out anything that might catch you out, so I'll see you shortly. Okay, about halfway through stage 44, or issue 44. Once you've done all these fiddly little bits here, you should end up with something that looks pretty much like that. That's with all the bits stuck on. There's one on the edge there, which I had to think about. It sort of sticks out and juts out past the edge. Doesn't look right, but it is right. So that's the piece that we have, including a bit of my skin that got ripped off with the when you put the super glue in the little holes and you push the part through, the glue comes out the other end, and if that's where you're holding it, you stick yourself to it. So be warned. So don't think there's much more we can do to that. Now it does say to leave this last piece on the sprue, and we've got these two bits where there's nothing we can do with them yet, and it looks to me very much like next week we're going to get the other side with the bit in the middle, and that's where all this machinery is going to go, sort of around here on the model. So that's pretty much it for the underside of there. I'm going to put all the little bits in my pieces I can't attach box. So unfortunately that means the only thing to do left now on issue 44 is to make up the other gun turret, which I didn't particularly enjoy on the first one, I must admit, but it's done and it needs to be done, so hey ho. Okay, that's the bit I'm looking for. That's the chair to assemble again, so some fiddly bits to do. So I should go on and do that. I'm sure you don't want to see me do that again because it's exactly the same as the one I did for the first turret. So I'll repeat the steps, and I'll show you at the end what it's finished, what it looks like when it's finished, what it looks like. But that's pretty much it for now. We'll come back to you later.